Aloha, and welcome to the Jewelers You Should Know podcast, where you get an insider's look into building, running, and growing a fine jewelry business. I'm your host, Robbie Haddad, and I'm the founder of GemTek Jewelry Marketing and Automation, a jeweler-owned marketing agency for local jewelers like us. I grew up in this industry, and my family personally owns 2 local fine jewelry businesses, one in Massachusetts and one in Hawaii. In this episode, we sit down with Michelle Demaree, the owner and founder of Miss Diamond Ring, a high-end diamond ring concierge that serves the highest caliber clients available. Michelle now has over 400,000 followers on Instagram, and Michelle's rings typically start at $50,000 and go up to well over 7 figures, and her clients come from the United States and from abroad. As you'll hear in this episode, she can regularly get 6 to 8 of those clients per month, even though she is in many ways a one-woman operation who built her business from scratch, one step at a time. Michelle's natural insight into the jewelry industry, sales, and business in general has always amazed me ever since I first worked with her, and I'm excited for you to hear some of her natural instincts and apply them to your business. We are here with Michelle Demaree from Miss Diamond Ring, or her last name now is Michelle
Forcara.
Forcara.
Yeah.
Cool. I did not, because now Mrs. Diamond Ring had a beautiful wedding, and I'm just so excited to be able to talk with Michelle again. Good friend of mine for a very long time, and just a super wonderful human being. And so I can't wait for everyone to be able to hear from her, hear her story, be inspired by her, and for her to just be able to pour out all this value that she has, because that's really her goal, and that's her passion in life, and you can tell just from listening to her talk. So Michelle, thanks so much for being on.
Thank you, Robbie. That is such a kind introduction. I'm just happy to reconnect with you and catch up.
Great. So let's start back at the beginning. A lot of people don't know who you are in the jewelry industry. They're not sure who you are because you're kind of this dark horse. You came in and you're not doing things the typical way so I grew up in the industry. You're doing things a much different way than like most of my clients are doing it. So can you give us a background on who you are and then how you got into the jewelry industry and how you found your niche?
Yes, totally. So it all starts about 18 years ago when I tripped and fell into the diamond industry at Cleef Arpels. My background prior to starting my business, I started my business 10 years ago, but 18 years ago, I started working for Cleef Arpels. I had a background in luxury sales and met the director of the store at an event, started working there, and then proceeded to work at Winston and Tiffany Company. So, had a wealth of training and experience working with the most beautiful stones, the most exceptional craftsmanship prior to leaving Winston, starting a family, having my daughter, Charlotte. And it was when she was one year old, so she's now 11, that I started Miss Diamond Ring. Yes, I can't believe it's been 10 years. I actually cannot believe it's gone by so fast.
You just said she's going into the 5th grade. That like blows my mind.
I know. Me too, actually. She's a little tween. But yeah, the beginning of Miss Diamond Ring stemmed from going to an entrepreneurship weekend for women. I had never intended on starting my own business. It was never, it's just kind of, I tripped and fell into that too. And that weekend I discovered I want to create my own business. And I felt like there was a niche, right? Having worked in luxury retail for these incredible brands, I felt like there was something missing. And so I wanted to pair exceptional craftsmanship, elite stone sourcing, which was my experience and background, with a bit more of a high touch white glove concierge experience. So many times working at these big jewelry houses, which were so wonderful, but there was so much corporate red tape to make little, design changes on rings. And so I wanted to be able to do that. Yeah, so often the answer was no. It was hard to bring in inventory, and so I wanted to create a different experience for clients. And I was also in a very big life transition. So I was, going through a divorce and realizing, okay, I don't want to go back to retail hours or I will never see my daughter. And so I started this business with the goal in mind of what it is now, where I can work from home, I can go to the workshop when I want, and I can, work with clients on my schedule. And so it's become everything I wanted it to be, but it's been a journey, a 10-year journey. When I started, I did not know how to run a business. I didn't have money to buy, to lease a space, to have a store. And so the question was, how can I add a lot of value, and how can I do it on the terms that I can work within right now?
Mm-hmm. And I have so many follow-up questions for that. I have three right off the top of my head. Number one, of those three stores that you worked at, which one did you like the most?
Oh, um, probably Harry Winston and Van Cleef, both for different reasons. I was lucky to work for them before they had been acquired by bigger corporations, and so they were family run and family owned. So
Yeah.
I would say Van Cleef and Arpels. Um, it was just so exceptional, and I got to go to Paris and train, and it was just so special back then. The stones I got to handle, and then moving to Harry, and that was in Chicago, Van Cleef and Arpels, and
Hmm.
then moving to Harry Winston on Rodeo Drive. That was just a whole different level. That was, bigger stones, high profile clients. And so, in Chicago, Van Cleef, it was more like old money. And so very different clientele consumers. Um, and just all of that experience was so valuable. And so I would say equally, I loved both of those equally for different reasons.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. And it's interesting you don't put Tiffany in there, but I mean, you've had the experience of, and you were in sales before that too, I believe. You were doing Bentley. You were like a Bentley, something like
Yeah, that
that.
was for a minute. I had done real estate. I had sold real estate in Southern
Selling
California
content.
and Las Vegas. Yeah, it was like selling $1 million homes during the boom, and then
Wow.
the market crashed, and so I followed a relationship to Chicago, which is how I
Oh,
started. I started working at Bentley, Lamborghini, Bugatti downtown Chicago, and a few months in, I was like, okay, this is definitely not for me. It was an
yeah.
experience, but that's where I met the director of Van Cleef and Arpels. It was at a event at the Peninsula Hotel, and I offered her a ride home in the Bentley I had shown up in. Almost crashed the car in the snow because I didn't know rear wheel drive on the snow.
Oh man.
And like the conversation from there to the store, she was like, I want to interview you and like bring you in, because I had had a very, very strong sales background in luxury.
Oh yeah.
So it's like transferable, like I just had to learn I had to learn the details of jewelry, and became a top salesperson at Van Cleef. But yeah, I had no background or experience in jewelry, and honestly no intention of getting into it. But it was a
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful accident.
Yeah. And you're like diamonds. Okay. Sounds good to me. And
Yeah.
so amazing. And then, as I hear your story a little bit, something that I think resonates and I want to ask you about is you talk about how I didn't have all this money. I didn't have all of these connections. I didn't have, well, you had some connections, but I didn't have like everything just handed to me and I needed to build it for myself. But you started, what it sounds like is you started by saying, here's my real priority. And I want to build my life around that priority. And so what I think I hear you saying is that you decided I'm going to put family first and then the business is going to come later. Would you say that's true, or would you say the business has been the priority?
Um, they're both priorities, but my family is always first. And so every decision I've made has been to create balance in my life. So I get to enjoy and grow and be challenged by business, but I'm able to spend the time that I want with my daughter and my family. And so there's one is never coming at a sacrifice of the other.
Awesome. That's awesome. I talk with so many jewelers who can't figure out how to make that happen. And yeah, what do you think that is?
Yeah, I think just drawing boundaries for yourself. It's taken me time to figure that out, right? Saying no to opportunities that, just because it's an opportunity and just because you might make money, it doesn't mean you're going to be happy. And happy is the true wealth, right? Balance. If you're rich and you're making all this money in jewelry, but your family is suffering, like that's not worth it. So I think always kind of like when I started, I was very clear on what I wanted to create. And so I funneled everything. I said no to many opportunities, actually, opportunities to expand, opportunities to do a reality show, opportunities to for investors to buy my business. I was like, I know what I want to create. I want it to remain intimate. I don't ever want it to be overwhelming. I want it to be fulfilling, and I want to make this much money. And so I just kept it. I set my boundary and I held it, and it's become exactly what I wanted.
That's amazing. We could go on for hours, obviously. But I want to keep moving along, and I want to hear about. So you built this business 10 years in. You've got amazing clients, people that you love working with.
Mhm.
And something you focus on a lot, I know, is branding. And you focus on sales and ethics. So branding, sales, and ethics in your business. Can you go into a little bit? A lot of people, they hear branding, they don't really know what to think of that. It's this
Mhm.
nebulous kind of, oh, branding. I know I need good branding, but I've heard you talk in depth about it, and you have a really good understanding of what branding is for especially for a fine jeweler, someone who's trying to sell exquisite, amazing pieces to people that are going to last a lifetime. What is your philosophy on branding for a jewelry business, and what makes it different than what you think a lot of people are doing with their branding?
Well, I think when people hear branding, they think of a logo, a font, and a color palette, which are elements of branding. But to me, branding is about your unique and personal experience that you're creating for clients.
Hmm.
And when you think about what clients want to experience, it's not just what you're going to sell them. It's like, what are they going to experience? You know, if you have a store, how does it smell when they walk in? Like, think about the brands that you aspire to purchase. Think about why you aspire to purchase them, right? And so if you put yourself in the mindset of the consumer who is going to be purchasing from you, you want to create an entire experience from start to finish, from phone call to email, from Instagram to the songs you use on your reels. Like, there should be
Hmm.
continuity and consistency. And what helps create that is having an overall like mission statement of like, this is who I am. And I think branding also, like if you're an entrepreneur and you're running your own business, it should be an extension of you,
Hmm.
right? An authentic brand that has connection. I think, you know, we hear always be selling ABC. It's like, or always be closing ABC, right?
Oh,
For
yeah.
selling. But it's like, I say always be connecting. Like,
Hmm.
find all of the different ways to connect with your clients. And you think of all the senses, all the five senses, right? Visual, of course, like the aesthetics of visual are very, very powerful. You know, if you have a consistent smell of your store when they come in, like candles, think about the Delano Hotel, right? It has that coconut smell. It's like these things become synonymous with your branding. And what you want is for people to aspire to want to connect with your brand. And it's
Hmm.
not about it being aspirational because it's expensive. Expensive is not special. There are a lot of expensive things out there. What's special is creating a connection that is unique to who you are with your unique client avatar, right? The people out there who are going to connect with you. And so the way to actually hone that is to kind of step into the uniqueness of who you are, and make your brand an extension of that, or you are an extension of your brand. I know a lot of people want to kind of hide and be invisible behind like a brand, but people connect more like, you know,
Hmm.
when they're looking, when they're on Instagram scrolling, they connect more with the face. People are dying for connection. And so I think, you
Wow.
know, whatever parts of you that are special and unique, and they're, you know, we're all here to kind of shine in our own unique way. I know that might sound cheesy, but it's just true. We're not here to be like one another. We, you know, it's why there are a million flowers in the garden. The sunflower's not trying to be a gardenia. The gardenia is not trying to be a rose. Like, no one is supposed to be Miss Diamond Ring. They're supposed to be who they are supposed to be, right? And so kind of owning that, owning your differences, whether it's cultural, whether it's your background, whether you have no experience in the jewelry industry and you want to bring something different, whether you have you know, generations, like just own who you are, and that authenticity will shine.
Wow. I know you've talked to me about that 30-30-30 rule. You want to just quickly hit on that?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I learned this from a therapist many, many years ago. It's like one of the wisest things I ever heard, because you know, I'm sure many of us struggle with people pleasing and wanting to make sure that we are liked by everyone. And when you're putting yourself out there as a brand, you worry, what are people going to think? What if I say this thing? And so the 30-30-30 rule is 30% of the people out there are going to absolutely love you, no matter like who you are, what you do. They're just going to, that's your tribe, right? They're going to be your people. 30% of the people, we're called 33, being technical, 33% of the people out there are going to be a little more indifferent. So love you, hate you, like, no, they're just, they you know, they're pretty indifferent, pretty neutral. And then 33% of the people out there, they're not going to like you. They're not going to vibe with you. They're going to be like, that's not my person. And that's kind of like, it's kind of true, right? And if you dilute who you are to please like the 30-60%, you're chasing after, you know, pleasing everyone, you dilute who you are. And then you don't have the loyalty of the 33% that really wants to know who you are and resonates with you, because we all have a unique footprint. We all have different backgrounds. Like, we're not supposed to be the same. It's like sometimes we see another brand and we're like, why don't I have that? You don't have that because you have a different upbringing, you have a different everything, and you're supposed to, and you have to find a way to own that and bring your own unique, like, beauty and perspective and just your own creative footprint and create something different.
So
That's
cool.
that's what branding is. It's not, yes, packaging. I mean, consistency. Yes, consistency of fonts, photography, like things that evoke emotion. But what you want to create is an experience, and an experience encapsulate emotions. And you can't have emotions without connection. You can't connect with people unless you're showing up as you truly are. And so I think it's all, they're all connected.
And I'm going to, after this, after we're done with the interview, I'm gonna connect with you about this thing we've seen working extremely well that puts all of that together and gets really high conversions for Facebook ads for jewelers. And you're gonna go, oh my God, of course that's what that would get you lots and lots of, because lots and lots of people interested in your brand and your business, because it goes right in line with what it is that you're talking about. So when it comes to branding and when it comes to sales, as you start to scale up in your business, at first, I'm sure it was just you, right? But who is it that's working in Miss Diamond Ring? I mean, who are all the different misses that are currently under the Miss Diamond Ring?
To be honest, it's right now, it's just me and
okay.
Stephanie. Yeah,
Wow.
it's so I've had ambassadors, I've had an assistant, I've tried a little of this and that. And currently what I'm doing really works for me. I just got married. Like, we have a growing family. I want to work with 5 to 8 clients a month, and I want to be working with them. So that is like, I'm not the Hyatt or the Four Seasons. I'm like San Ysidro Ranch. 20 people can stay there, and it's a once in a lifetime experience. And that is it. I want to be connecting with all of my clients. I want to know their love story, and I want to make their ring. And so that's it. And Stephanie, by the way, who is a huge, huge helper, she and I worked together at Cleef Arpels 18 years ago. And so she's my virtual assistant out of Chicago, and she's incredible. She helps me with my invoicing and like kind of all the things that I don't want to do. Thank God she likes doing them, because I'm a creative, I'm a right brain. So I struggle with organization and like all of the I mean, I really need like 5 people to handle all that. But like right now I just have Stephanie, and it's, I know there are companies that are successful that have a lot of employees, but I tend to work really well with pouring my energy into my clients, not into employees.
Hold on, that just sounds impossible, because everyone, they think that to grow a business to multiple 7 figures, you have to have tons and tons of employees. So this can't be true. There's no way.
Well, it's worked for me. It's worked for me. I just set a goal and I've held a boundary, and I only, like, if you create your boundary of what you want and you hold true to it, you say no to clients that you don't want to work with, and you hold out for like my brand calls in 5 to 10 carat clients. And so that's where I spend my time. And there's room to grow for other business too. But right now it would be overwhelming for me, and I don't want to be overwhelmed. Like, it's just not worth it. Yeah. So, the form that you helped me create on my website has been incredibly valuable. Nice. I set up my calendar, people book, I do the call. And then if I decide to work with them, then we make a ring, and a lot of it's virtual. So I'm not having to, like, actually I have 2 appointments today in person, but a lot of I just had one after this podcast.
Okay.
But a lot of it is virtual, and it's great. I meet people from all around the world, but it's like, it's not taking that, it's like an hour, and then I make the ring, and that's not a lot of time that it's taking away from me. So that is what I wanted to create. So it's like, I want to be with my daughter, I want to play tennis with her, I want to pick her from school. So this is what I created for myself. And everyone gets to choose what they want to do, but it's totally doable. And there's enough for everyone out there, right? Like,
so much.
Yeah.
I always say, if you could, if a person can learn to just take like 1,000th of 1% away from Jared's or Zales. But like
Right.
you're gonna have a huge business, because
Yeah,
Signet and all these other guys, LVMH, they're huge businesses. There's so much
totally.
industry, and
And it's such an
they want
evergreen
that shit.
industry. It's the
Yeah.
most evergreen industry. People are always falling in love. It's like you can look at the good stats or the bad stats. Like I always focus, I have blinders on for only the good, like I most of the time, because whatever you focus on is going to expand.
Mhm.
So I focus on really what I want to achieve and what I want the outcome to be, and it pretty consistently shows up because that's where I hold my energy and my focus, my attention. Literally, if I'm like, okay, I want to take on 8 clients this month, I will have 8 clients. I know it sounds crazy, but I do a lot of meditation, I do a lot of hypnosis, I do a lot of visualization, and it works. It's like if you're thinking like, oh, you know, if your inner state very much will match all of the things outside of you. So if you're not a happy person, if you don't like what you're doing, if you don't enjoy your business, like unfortunately, you're going to attract clients who are going to be difficult and challenging. And it's like an employee, it's like you really want to get into a good place. So you attract good employees, you attract good clients, and holding the boundary for that. I learned this, by the way. Like this is something I learned over 10 years because when I um, went through my life, transition from, being married to becoming a single mom and just doing all of rebuilding myself and rebuilding my life,
Yeah.
I learned that I had struggled with boundaries.
Mhm.
And so I was attracting the worst clients. They were so difficult. They were so rude. They were offensive. They would take all of my time and not buy anything. And it was just like that happened for a year until I realized, wait a minute, I need to hold a boundary. I'm saying yes to something that is down here when I should say no to that and hold out for what's up here. So that was a learning process for me, and it is for everyone, you know.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it just flies right in the face of desperation and it
Totally.
1,000% like abundance mindset. There's so much out there. There is so much out there and you don't have to worry. I mean, look, you're only really dealing with people that have what most jewelers that I know in, IJO, RJO, um, the general jewelers out there that I know when they hear that, oh no, I know Michelle Demaree, like she and I've worked together before and super good friends. And, the lowest engagement ring she'll take is $10,000. And then, generally it's like 50 grand for a ring or above. They're like, they've been in the industry for 30 years or 40 years. And they're like, no, there's no way you can't do that. And you're saying there's
Yeah,
an there. Yeah. And so,
that's what I've chosen to do, but everyone gets to choose what they want, like some people want, that's just the business that works for me. I don't have
yeah,
the capacity to handle all of the business in the world, and I don't want to.
yeah, yeah. It's really, really, I mean, we can go on forever about this. Let's talk sales. What have you learned? Because the way that you do sales is it's very one-to-one. It's very high touch, as you call it. And
Yeah.
it's something that you said you did not find when you were at those really reputable businesses. So what have you
Mm-hmm.
learned about sales that you take into your jewelry business and how did you handle these are elite clients? I mean, we're talking
Yes.
about this is the best. So what is it that you focus on when it comes to sales that allows you to succeed at such a high level?
Um, I read a book about 10 years ago called The Go Giver,
Mhm.
and it changed my outlook on sales because I used to be the girl that was just trying to make a sale so I could make commission, so I could buy the thing I wanted. I was just thinking about myself, honestly. And I had learned a lot and I knew how to sell, but um, I now, and for many years, focus on what does the client need? How can I add value? Like, what is most important to them? And how can I deliver an exceptional experience that will be unforgettable for them? Like, my question is always, how can I make it better? How can I make it better? And so when clients come to me, I've already thought of like, how can I make this the best experience ever? And so my process already kind of encapsulates that. But when I first talk to them, I want them to know that I care about them, that I give like a thought. Like I care about them. I'm not just here trying to sell something so I can make money. I want to give them the most beautiful work of art that represents their love story. And so I start off asking about their love story, how they met. I ask a lot of open-ended questions. Tell me where you're at in your search instead of like, what's your budget? What's your, it's like, And I understand in this industry, when you get burned by clients, you kind of start losing like the desire to invest in clients. But when you actually invest in them and they feel that you care and that you're connected, they will share more with you and they will trust you. And once you've established trust, which is a really big thing on a purchase this big, then they will share more information with you. And so the experience is something like this, right? Once I get to know who they are, I talk about like what would be the most ideal outcome for you, like tell me what you envision, what is the most ideal carrot weight within your budget. And then when we meet or when I'm sending them videos and photos, I really try and over deliver. It's always like under promise, over deliver. And then I don't have any like, people who like charge you for shipping or they charge you for the appraisal, or like you could do that, but at this level, like everything is included. I'm not trying to take, it's like I'm packaging it. Yeah, you can't nickel and dime because it doesn't feel good. It's like just create an experience that feels good from start to finish, and include something personal. If I don't know, if you grew up in Norway, like give them some Norwegian lefse when they purchase, like give them something like homemade. When people come, and meet with me, I usually have homemade cookies that I bake because I like to do that. And it's just something that is like, it's real. It's makes people feel a little bit at home. And so there are all these different ways that you can do this, but my sales process is I'm very clear on, my competitors. I never, like when I talk about the ethics of business, if someone comes to me and they say they've been working with a jeweler, I actually it really bothers me when clients are shopping around with 5-10 other people. And so I tell them, if you're working with someone else, I actually don't work with clients who are shopping with other people. Like that doesn't work for me. It might be a part of the game, but I don't treat this as a transaction. And so you should actually work with that jeweler. I did this recently, and I was like, I just don't want that kind of, I don't believe in it. I don't. And so,
yeah.
What's that?
It feels icky. It's like they're making you do something that ultimately you just don't, you're not trying to be, yeah, I get it.
They're treating it as though it's just about money, and it's so much more. And so, the people who come to me know that it's so much more than that. And so if you build your brand and your experience and make it clear that this isn't about if you want to get the lowest price, like go to Costco, if you want an exceptional experience from start to finish and the best craftsmanship and all these things, like I'm adding a lot of value to say, then this is how it works. And these are my terms. So I'm just very clear on those boundaries.
So good. Let's get into so much that I could ask you. But let's get into, and this is awesome. You're just walking right over it and just doing such a great job. Now, I would want to know, as you've been growing your business and as you have had these different like milestones and you've grown, which are like, I guess what I ask is, over the years, what have the milestones been for you that have, like, has it been a particular client where you went, oh my gosh, I have to change the way I do things because that was brilliant? Or is it something like, are there any milestones in your business where you've been able to like really level up because of something that you've learned?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you have a terrible client experience and they walk all over you and you're just stuck in it and you can't get out, like I had that happen. It was actually for a very big sale, and it was the way that woman treated me felt so terrible that I was like, I might quit and just stop doing this because that felt so bad. She was a Beverly Hills housewife. But just the whole thing, I was like, no, this is not happening. And so I changed. I made it a mutual decision. Like, we'll see if we're a good fit to work with one another. This is not like everyone can just come in here and walk all over me. It's like, no, this is how I work. This is how I operate. I take this many clients a month. Like, let me see what you're looking for. If they're kind of a problematic client from the beginning, they're going to be a problem the whole way through. That is absolutely the truth. Like, if they show up and they're a hot mess, like it's going to kind of continue. If they're unhappy in their life, they're going to bring their unhappiness like to the jewelry situation. And so I just don't have room for that in my life at this stage. I just don't, I won't. And so I would say that was one of the big shifts for me. Um, I would say, Facebook, Instagram ads, like during the pandemic, those drove my business like through the roof in a way that I didn't anticipate. And so just realizing the power of that, trying Google ads, like we're all out there trying to figure out what's working. And
Yeah.
once you figure it out, just kind of like it can become a well-oiled machine and double down, triple down. Um, and if you are able to bring in the business, make sure you can serve the clientele in a way that is ethical, where you're giving them the proper amount of time. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, growing pains, like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I know one thing that a lot of people would have a lot of questions on is, well, hey, and you can think this yourself too and go, oh, I'm sure I've heard that all the time. People can say, well, okay, the reason that she's so successful is that, well, she has a lot of Instagram followers. She's young and beautiful, and she worked at these stores before. So what would you say to that? And I know that you use social media a lot. I'd love to hear your thoughts on social media for a fine
Mm-hmm.
jeweler, one that provides fine jewelry. But what would you say to someone who said that and in your
Yeah, well,
experience, how that's actually
they're
played out?
they're right. Yes, my background is helpful. Growing it when I started Instagram, I had one follower, my mother. So like that took time. I would say like when I started 10 years ago, I was in a completely different place. And so anyone who's starting is starting where they're at. I didn't have any industry connections. I had one and a half when I left Harry Winston, and it was like, and then I went to trade shows. I was sick to my stomach. I brought my cards and I did so much hard work. I figured out Instagram on my own. There were no shortcuts for me. And so, and the time I put in at Harry Winston, Tiffany, and Van Cleef, like that was a lot of time that was not fun necessarily. And
Yeah.
so I'm really happy I have that background to do this, but you can't start at stage one and go to 10. That's not a realistic expectation. I think having a little bit of humility when you start and saying, okay, this is where I'm starting. What can I learn? Right? Being in a place of like everybody wants to have an immediate fast track somewhere. And I don't think that's realistic. Yes, you can grow quickly, but you have to put in the time, the effort, and the education. Working for a jeweler, if you haven't done that before, is valuable.
Yeah.
Like being an apprentice and learning is something that you should do so you are good. You can't show up and be an expert when you're not an expert, right? So I think that is just the reality of any industry.
That's so cool. And yeah, as we're gonna kind of wind down here a little bit, I just I would love to hear because I know your heart. I know how you are just such a you just want to pour into people. That's like your thing. And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it, a pleasure for anyone to be like an apprentice under you. It'd just be amazing. But that's not going to happen for everyone or anyone, most people. And so, what if there was a young, say, look at yourself 10 years ago, 12 years ago, kind of where you were
Mm-hmm.
at. Like,
Yeah.
I have this dream. I have a young kid at this point, and coming out of maybe like a hard time in my life. I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but I see that, Michelle has done this. She's gone through this. You're not finished growing, obviously, but I mean, you're at this
Mm-hmm.
point, which is, much farther along than many people. What would have been a really helpful thing for you to hear at that point that would have helped you to get through those hard nights?
Yeah, I would say starting where you're at, you can still create something incredibly beautiful and valuable and successful. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have to have 400,000 Instagram followers to make the money you need to make and to connect with the people you need to connect with to sell what you need to sell,
Yeah.
right? Like everybody is thinking so big when actually like a lot of my best business comes from a personal referral. So start where you're at, start in your circle, and think of what is unique about you that you can create and contribute. That is soul giving and life giving because we spend so much time doing this work. We want to love what we're doing. I want to feel like we're contributing and giving something back, right? So I would say start with what you're passionate about. I mean, I could talk for hours about like if someone's in a hard place, like pouring love into themselves and doing some inner work because all the inner work I did helped me expand my business. It helped me expand so many things.
Mm.
It's like everything outside is like starts as an inside job. So, but it's like, don't worry about Instagram. Don't worry about followers. Don't worry about not having a huge business. Start with your little art project that you think is beautiful. Create what you want to create as a jeweler, or if you're passionate about something, if you're passionate about emeralds, make emeralds your thing until you can go to the next thing. You don't have to tackle everything at once, right? It's like you're a tree growing, and you grow one branch at a time, and you see like how many leaves and how much fruit it's going to bear, and then you try another one. Like my business has been like growing different branches every year, but I started with like square one, and it's a fun adventure. The whole point is like, it's not to get there, it's like the journey getting there, because even once you're there, you're not done. Like once you get everything you want, then you just want to give it back to everyone. So it's like the journey is, enjoy the growth, enjoy the challenges, because you can't have one without the other. You can't have enjoy beauty and light without some of the darkness and some of the contrast.
Oh,
But it's really possible to, set your financial goals, start small. It's a beautiful thing to start small. How do trees start? A seed, you
that's
know?
right.
So
Yeah.
we all have like the treeness in all of us, and we start with the seed, but the seed has to come from inspiration and from love. And then you can grow something very beautiful.
I would love, maybe last question that we have. This is still kind of along the same vein, but just it, kind of teaching jewelers what's important, or helping them to understand some things that you've learned in your business that have made a big difference. I would normally ask you, like, what's a jewelry business hack? Something that a jeweler, like, if they figured this little thing out, would make a big difference. I would love, which you can hit on that if you want to, but I would love it if you could hit on that, like a jewelry business hack, but from the perspective of the exercises that you were talking about earlier, where you're talking about meditation and things like that. What is something that a jeweler
Mm.
could start doing? A hack, right? You can start right now,
Oh yeah.
start today,
Yeah.
and it's going to make a big difference, and it's going to push things forward.
That is such a good question. I mean, I have so many meditations I could like, I would love to like share that are helpful
We can do
on.
another podcast for sure, but just give us
I know. But yeah,
the
let
iceberg.
me just think. Like, I think I think the hack is back to that branding, and uniqueness that we all carry. It's like, what is the special thing that you can bring to your jewelry? And you may think that there's nothing, but I promise you there is something,
Mm.
right? If it's that special memorable thing about you. So if you took a trip to Africa and you had this experience, looking at beautiful emeralds or something like that, like you use your story as a part of your brand, and how that changed, how that, and it's a conversation starter. But I just really think like there are so many jewelers out there. There's so much jewelry out there. You know, truly the hack is being interesting,
Mm.
creating something interesting that will stand out, and pairing that with your jewelry. Also, yeah, I mean, there's so many things, but that to me is standing out a lot, because there's no like, you know, yeah, when you're selling a stone, you need one or two stones to compare it against. Like is that a hack? Maybe. Like that's so, if you're selling a 5 carat, you need like a 4 carat and a 6 carat to,
To
to
get them out there.
showcase. Right. Like and if you have too many options, people get overwhelmed and they end up not buying. I learned that from my first trunk show. I showed up with so much jewelry, nobody bought anything, and I was so frustrated. But I had too many options. I tried too hard. So, um, yeah, I don't know if
So
that's helpful.
no, it is. Be interesting. It's what I think I hear you saying there, is, in business, it's so easy for you to just make business everything about what you do. But what you're saying is there should be other things about you besides just the fact that you have a jewelry business.
Oh my
And
goodness.
that
Yeah.
actually is what connects with other people. So like for me, right, I live in the middle of the ocean and I've got my clients are all so laid back. I mean, you can't live here. It's impossible to live here if you're a fast-paced individual. And so like my brand and that I've created is like I actually don't like meeting in an office or something like that. It's just not my thing.
Yeah.
I
Me
meet with
too.
everybody at coffee shops and I buy them coffee and they freaking love it. And they tell me all the time how much they love it. This is the best experience I've ever had buying jewelry because
Yeah,
why? I like coffee. I happen to like coffee quite a lot. And I grew up in the industry and I just don't like that stuffy feeling. And I know it's not great.
same.
So I'm like, why would I do that? I'd rather just have coffee with someone. And I think there's also a little bit of a psychological thing there that who would you sit down across the table over coffee with? A friend. And so you're like creating this experience. And I think what you do sometimes, not all the time, but what you do is you invite people into your home. And I think it's like if you ask the question like who do you whose houses do you get invited into?
Hmm.
His house, right? And you're create I mean, so anyway, I think what you're talking about is just amazing. And so and
It's
jewelers have
just,
amazing things that they could
that's the thing. Like it's, your trip to Israel and, or your trip to, you know, Iceland or anything, yes, you're selling them an engagement ring or you're selling them a pair of studs, but letting them know that you're not just there to make the sale and that you're and be curious about them, right? Be
Mhm.
interested in who they are. Notice things about them and like it's not just like complimenting them their belt, but be like, oh, I can tell you love XYZ. And as I get to know my clients and I learn things about them after they leave, like I will send them a bottle of their favorite wine, or it's just being thoughtful.
Yeah.
It's these things that people miss, right? Like everybody's craving that kind of connection, that shows you care, that it's just kind of lacking. And so the more you
You
can
give a
bring it,
damn. Yeah. That you're actually putting some time aside and that this person really means more to you than just the cash in their wallet.
completely, because
Yeah.
they can go to five other people and it's not if you make your price the thing that's compelling about you, you've actually lowered your own value because like what it's a race to the bottom,
Yeah.
right? Like the industry is like a race to the bottom with prices. So it's really not about that. Unless you're chasing like the Costco client and that is a different niche. But if
You
you
won't beat
really want
Costco.
I know, good luck with that. But instead, like just kind of like lean into like and make sure what you're offering is valuable and unique and different. And that's your own fun art, like your Rubik's Cube to figure out your own art project. Like you are your own art project and you are the creator. And so make it interesting and make it fun for yourself. Because if you're having fun, your clients will be having fun too, and your employees.
Awesome. Well, this has been amazing. It's been incredible. And there's more that I could ask you. Obviously, I think we're probably going to have you on for seven more podcasts. But man, there's so many questions. Are there any questions that you would want me to ask you? Yeah, I was interested in asking the whole, what do you think is going to happen in the industry in the next 5 to 10 years? I'd love to hear your insights on that. Um,
Ooh. Well, um, what I think is going to happen to the industry the next 5 to 10 years. I've never thought about that, but I can tell you off the top of my head what I think.
yeah.
Um, I believe, well, I don't know. I believe a lot of jewelers will go out of business if they're not innovating and thinking differently. And
Mm,
so the one thing if you own a business is if you think you can do the same thing for 5 years or 10 years and it feels good to do the same thing, like it to do anything unfamiliar feels uncomfortable. But if you aren't changing and growing and evolving, just like our collections do, right? People don't want to wear the same jewelry. They want to change it. They want to shift it. Then going out of business might be in the foreseeable future. This is just the reality. I do see like people who are creators and who are creative and who are passionate about what they do. I think that drive is going to drive success.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
an intrinsic motivator.
Yep.
I believe the lab grown diamond industry, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. Personally, we can look at the real estate market, we can look at the economy. I think natural diamonds will always have their place. I don't think that they're going to drop off. I know that there's been a dip, but there's always going to be the Ferrari client who wants a natural diamond.
Yeah.
But I think lab grown diamonds are 35 billion now, the industry. I foresee that growing.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's just my off the cuff take. I could be totally wrong.
No, I mean it sounds good to me. No one knows, right? This is the
No one
future.
knows.
Everyone can say whatever they want to, and it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. But I, where I think you're well positioned is my personal take on the industry based off of talking with people who are in charge of many jewelers and things like that. I think the retail jeweler, I think the business model that you have is going to be more desirable to the average client than the retail store is. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's going to be a growing sector that a lot of mom and pops are not going to be ready for. And um,
Mm-hmm.
so I think you're definitely well poised to take advantage of that if you want to.
Thank
Before
you.
before I forget, very last question. What is so special about your diamond? I want to hear the story. Can you tell the story about your diamond? And yes,
My
that one. Tell me about your diamond. Tell me if you don't mind
diamond.
sharing a little
No,
bit about
I'm
the
happy to
cool story
share.
behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got married 3 months ago. Paul, my husband, he is a rocket scientist at SpaceX, and so he wanted to give Miss Diamond Ring something that like I couldn't get on my own. So he let me pick out the stone, which is a beautiful oval,
Mm.
but he took the metal before he made the ring and he put it on a rocket and sent it to space. And so the metal that we made my both of my rings with and his ring with, it's space metal. So we could say our rings are out of this world. Um,
Hey.
yeah, yeah.
I think that's so cool. Do you know where did it go? Was it like just the atmosphere, kind of one of those like test rockets or something,
In a
or
in orbit. Yeah.
into orbit? That is so.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That's so. I don't know anyone else that
Yeah.
can say that. I can tell you that
That's
for sure.
pretty cool. That's
That's
pretty
cool.
cool.
All right, awesome. Michelle, if someone did have any questions or if they just wanted to learn more about you, where could they find you?
Well, Miss Diamond Ring on Instagram. That's MISS Diamond Ring. And I have a YouTube channel.
Nice.
And missdiamondring.com, my website. So
Very
yeah, that's
cool.
where.
Awesome. And then when are you going to come and visit me, huh? When are you guys
Oh
coming
my
out?
gosh, man. We were in Hawaii last year. We
Yeah,
went
you
to
went to
Grand Island.
Maui.
Yeah.
You should have
Okay,
come
you're
to Kauai.
okay. We are coming to Kauai. We're gonna come. You know what? We're gonna make this happen very
All
soon.
right, cool. I'm in January. We got some beach houses, so you can stay with us there. So it'd be awesome. But
That
um,
sounds so great.
wonderful talking with you. Seriously, it's
You
been such a pleasure. Thank
too.
you so
Thank you
much.
for having me.
Have a wonderful rest of your day. And good luck with your appointment later.
Oh, thank you.
All right, talk soon. Thank you so much for joining today's discussion. To learn more about our guest, you can find their information in the show notes. If you enjoy learning about the jewelry industry and what we're doing here, you can subscribe to our channel on YouTube at my personal YouTube channel, Robbie Haddad, ROBBIEHADDAD. And for a limited time, you can get a free copy of our new book, The Jewelry Marketing Blue Book. It is a definitive guide to growing your jewelry business, your local jewelry business with new and repeat customers. It's a free, no-cost way to support us and grow your local jewelry business at the same time. And you can do that one proven step at a time using that book. So to get that book, simply go to www.gemtek360.com. That's GEMTEK 360.com. And a pop-up will show up and give you the opportunity to put in your information to get that book. If you'd like to make comments or suggest guests to be on our show, leave that information in the comments section of YouTube. We're going to check every single comment, and we'd love to get feedback on the opportunity to improve our show. And if you'd like to learn more about our company and how our company can partner with your jewelry store and help you to grow by significantly increasing your fine jewelry appointments, just go to gemtek360.com. That's GEMTEK360.com and use the provided links to hop on a call with us. We'd love to talk with you. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.